Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Rising Laterally podcast. This is Arjun Sachdev.
And this is Jay Baloo. We hope you find something here that offers you new meaning or a fresh perspective.
If you do, we encourage you to give it life.
Be bold.
Experiment.
And most importantly, bring it into the interactions with the people you surround yourself with.
And see what happens. Charan, Singh, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we're really happy to have you here with us as well, sharing some space together. And I know by the end of this episode, there's going to be someone out there that feels inspired, and you're probably going to end up changing someone's life. You won't know them, but they're going to know you, and that's pretty cool.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. There you go. So in addition to being a father, you're an elite personal trainer, a sponsored athlete, a speaker, and now an author. And you've inspired thousands by the way that you live. It's a lifestyle that you're calling warrior wisdom.
Yeah,
so that's exactly where we should start. In your words, what is a warrior and what is warrior wisdom?
So, I mean, we when you think of the word warrior, you think of this alpha male figure with a weapon and this armor, but in reality, it's not, right? Times have changed. And a warrior, in my eyes, is somebody who strives to be a better version of themselves, isn't willing to, is willing to put other people before them, and protect them and nurture them and help them out while on a pursuit of their own kind of journey. And essentially, if you think of this samurai with the sword and armor, aren't they doing the same thing? They are protecting their village and their community. It's just times have changed, right? We can't carry bow and arrows and swords anymore. But what we do have is our brain and our spoken word. So that in itself is more than enough. That's your weapon. So that is a warrior. Warrior wisdom is about turning your pain into power. It's about knowing better. And the wisdom aspect is taking what you've learned through your hardship and applying it to not only your future self, but applying it to help other people.
Nice.
So that essentially is warrior wisdom.
No, absolutely. And it's spot on. I mean, that's a mentality I think a lot of people are trying to adapt. And if you think about it, a warrior is someone who is also someone who's hard to guard. They're always working hard. They're improving daily. They're staying prepared. They're helping teammates. They're anticipating actions. I mean, that's pretty cool. Do you think that that's a mindset that's a result of something that happened in your childhood? I mean, what's the motivating narrative of your life? And how did you get to think like this? And how did you get to this point?
I think it's choosing to not be a victim, because what I've noticed now is with the struggle or hardships or obstacles, whatever you want to call them, it's now become a competition. And it's like, you won't go, like when you express yourself openly and honestly with somebody, they'll say, yeah, but, or they'll say something like, yeah, I remember when I went through that. But people now, they can't just stay silent and just actually embrace what this person is telling them. So it's become this competition. So I chose not to indulge in that. I chose to not be a victim and be a victor. So, instead of, I feel like people are trying to resonate or get on the same level with people by saying, yeah, I went through that too. But it takes away from what the other person is trying to tell you. So instead, I flip it and it's like, I choose not to be a victim. What you choose to do is up to you, but I'm hoping that you take my example because I went through the exact same thing you did. So that's essentially where it kind of like stems from.
Mm-hmm. And everyone sort of has different trials and tribulations. So it's not a competition in terms of who's more the victim. It's kind of a competition in terms of who wants to be the victor more than the other person. What drives you? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's also, and the more you kind of go down this route, the more you realize it always has been and it always will be you versus you. And it's not even about, I used to think it's me today versus me yesterday. I've even adopted a different approach nowadays. I don't compare myself to myself yesterday because I'm not going that way. So I've heard people say, oh, it's me today versus me yesterday. No, yesterday you were a different person. That's a separate 24 hours. So why compare yourself to who you were yesterday? You're not going that way. It's you today versus you tomorrow, because tomorrow has the potential of you going down a bad route, right? Essentially, all you have control over is today, not tomorrow, not yesterday, today.
That's interesting, but that's a challenge for so many people to actually think about their future self.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's from a health perspective, a mental health perspective, or financial perspective, it's really hard to put yourself like in the future and work towards that. So, but I love that switch in terms of the shifts in perspective of that right there.
Yeah. And even to build on perspective, what you just said, how you said it's hard to think that way and work towards it. What I like to do is, it's something I developed. It's called skilled negative thinking. So you think of the worst case scenario and you work yourself back. You work backwards. So essentially, think about um, think about how you see yourself in the future, but more so think about how you don't want to be,
Mm.
Mm,
and work backwards. I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to be, broke. I don't want to be abusive. I don't want to be all these things, all these negative things. I don't want to be those things. So I work myself backwards, and I just make sure my actions align with who I don't want to be. That
Mm.
way, it'll result in me, because we create this blueprint of who we want to be, and when we don't get there, we consider ourselves failures, or we consider ourselves, oh, I'm behind. So don't
right.
focus on who you want to be. That will bloom. Focus on who you don't want to be. You'll end up going down a route that is a lot better.
Hmm.
So that's another shift in perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think part of that around building habits too is just building habits that you won't regret. A lot of people try to build certain things into the routine that they think will benefit them. But I think another healthy strategy is approaching it like, what if I removed all of the things that I regret doing on a daily basis? What would my routine look like then? What would fill my time? You know?
1,000,000%. I agree with that. And think about it like this, if you get an ice sculpture, you know, you chip away to reveal what you want, right? So
Mm,
we think our life and happiness and success, or whatever you want to consider it, we think it's an addition. I have to, do get all these things or become all these things. When in reality, it's the opposite. Chip away at what you don't need. Consider yourself an ice sculpture. Just get rid of the unnecessary. Simplify, and you'll be revealed and left with the habits that you need, the habits that you don't have that you should have. You know what I mean? So it's not the daily increase that leads to kind of fulfillment. It's the daily decrease.
Mm.
that's interesting. Speaking of daily, though, you're constantly putting up workout videos. They're pretty creative. You've been consistent for a long time, and one thing that's really cool about you is that you're inspiring because you're proof to your clients that this mentality gets real results. So, what are some of the toughest races or challenges that you've put yourself through?
So 2019, I did a 24-hour race. It was a 24-hour team championships. And now it was a 400-meter track filled with obstacles. And every 10 minutes, the obstacles switch up. And it's a team
Okay.
of four. So you basically go around for 24 hours. And it was interesting. Um, so that was a mental challenge. Physically, I was okay with it. Physically, the toughest thing I've done is two races. It was a 50K in BC, in the
Okay.
Rocky Mountains specifically, and then there was a 50K in Hawaii. And this is not just running; they're in the mountains, so they're obstacle races full of obstacles. So those definitely shaped who I am.
Nice.
And
So,
what is your kind of mindset when you're in those races, or you're in a kind of grueling bout of like physical exertion? Where does your mind go to keep pushing?
Um, so what's helped me is basically when I'm in the middle of a race and I want to give up, I have two options. I can either walk to the finish line and quit, or I can run to the finish line and finish. And my mindset is I've flown all this way, I've paid all this money, I've spent literally a year training for these races. The amount of like time, sacrifice, effort, money that you have to put up, it's like, do I really want to go home empty handed because of how I'm feeling like now, right now? Like, am I really gonna get am I really gonna base a permanent result on a temporary emotion? If I'm not injured, I look at myself, I do a body scan. Am I injured? No, I'm not. I'm just in pain. The pain goes away. We all know that. All right. If I'm injured, that's a different story. All right. But I'm like, I'm not injured. I'm okay. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I'm swollen. But this will pass. So just keep moving.
Powerful.
Did that thinking come from experience, or were you someone who studied past warrior cultures and learned from them? Because it's interesting, one thing that we talk about on this podcast a lot are archetypes and psychology around it. And so if we get into the warrior archetype, like every great civilization had a great warrior tradition, whether it's like the Japanese samurai warriors that you mentioned earlier, or like you can think about Spartans. There was a warrior culture. Are you a student of those?
1,000,000% I am. My body is covered in like Japanese culture and Bushido tattoos. I have a samurai on my leg, Enso
Oh,
circle,
wow.
Wave the Warrior tattooed on my ribs.
Nice.
I have Atlas on my other rib. I have an inscription from the Last Samurai on my leg too. My whole quad is like the Last Samurai piece. So I do adopt that lifestyle. I've studied Norse mythology. I do believe I was like a Viking in my last life. I absolutely love like Viking history. I've studied the Spartans. I have a Spartan helmet tattooed on my leg. Yeah, so I've studied all the battles. Japanese culture, I try to embody that in my everyday life, hence why I have Bushido tattooed on my ribs. So yeah, those three, and obviously the Sikh warrior culture. I've been a testament from that. I'm from that bloodline, so not only have I studied it, I try to live it. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, because I think that society, like, we don't really teach our children to be warriors. We teach them to kind of be more soft, be nice, avoid confrontation, like fit into the box, like don't disrupt. Like we teach them those things, but I think there's room to give a complete picture in society's mind of what a warrior is, right? And there's like an empathetic side of a warrior. A fight, I don't think, is always a bad thing if it's actually worth fighting for. So there's just like, I feel like an incomplete picture out there of what a warrior is. And I think there's this element of like, there's a completeness to a warrior as well.
Oh yeah, because you got to remember, a warrior's greatest weapon isn't the weapon they carry; it's their mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to remember, before a samurai takes that sword out of his sheath, the mind has to the mind needs to assess the situation and judge whether, like, shall I take my sword out? When the sword is out, that warrior doesn't carry that sword for no reason. That warrior is trained hundreds of hours to use it, and it's the brain that tells the body. You got to remember, bones don't just move, muscles don't just move. The mind neurologically tells the arm to move left and right.
True.
So therefore, the mind is going to tell the sword what to do, whether it's a sword or an axe, a bow and arrow, whatever it may be. Or bringing it back to modern times, somebody's confrontational, and you show that person you're scared, they're gonna, that the bully in them is gonna come out. So if you hold your ground and be like, hey man, listen, I don't want any trouble, but having that sure enough stance of I can take care of myself. And this is why my old coach always told me, like, deadlifting 3 plates won't protect your family. That's why I do jiu-jitsu every Monday. I've been boxing for almost 20 years. Like, I can take care of myself, like, if needs be, but I'd rather not. Like, I'd rather not get into a situation, but I can take care of myself and my family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think using your speech, you're obviously a compelling communicator. I think honing your speech and learning how to use that as a tool or a weapon in conversation can be very useful as well. Speaking honestly, speaking from a place of strength and confidence is a really important tool in conflict at work, or in social relationships, or even if you're using it to de-escalate a street fight or something like that. Getting really comfortable with your speech is incredibly effective.
1,000,000%. I'll give you an example as well. This is many moons ago. This is a long time ago. There was a bully. I noticed like there was a certain situation going on, and I intervened, and the guy turned on me, and he put his hands on me, like he pushed me away. So instead of reacting and hitting it back, or like being confrontational, just as like what he was doing, I drew a line in the ground with my foot, and I took a step back, and I said, hey, listen, dude, man, you've compromised my personal space. If you cross that line, I will break your jaw, and there's nothing the police can do about it because it's self-defense, and I've given you a verbal warning. And he just stood there, and he was just like, is this guy for real? Like, he's warning me. He's drawn a line in the ground, and lo and behold, just what bullies do. You put a little bit of heat on them and they melt. He just calmed down and he left the other person alone. And it came down to my mind. It came down to body awareness, situational awareness. It came down to me knowing that, hey, like, I can not only take care of myself, but I had the courage to intervene and try to protect somebody else that I didn't know. Right. So I think situational awareness and having the common sense to, pick and choose your battles is very crucial.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, and ultimately warriors are decisive, right? So you're going to be making bold decisions regardless of the circumstance. And if you're able to stay cool, calm, and collected, and think about all the possibilities, once you make that decision, like, you're all in, and that's what you did there. And then you were calculated about it as well. So that's, again, all part of the warrior archetype and the other side of being a warrior, which is like, these are the good characteristics of being a warrior. Being decisive, being calculated, being skillful, and continuing to develop those skills.
Oh yeah, and you know what? That's credit to, like, my old coaches, because they've even said, like, with combat sports and what I've been taught, like, this doesn't give you the right to go and hurt people.
Right.
It's like, I know certain things to subdue an individual. That doesn't give me the right to go and do it on them. Hence why in that moment, and I anybody watching this, if you're ever in a situation, don't just react, don't just fight hate with hate, fire with fire. Let them know, like, hey, listen, I've intervened, but if you proceed further, I am forced to take action, and that will, in a court of law, that will play in my defense because I gave you a verbal warning.
Yeah. And so for anyone looking to tap into the warrior archetype and the mindset, I really do think that your book is awesome, Warrior Wisdom. It actually can be a great gift. It could just be, it should be on everyone's coffee table, because there's a lot of people that are striving each day to be the best versions of themselves. They're trying to cope with whatever chaos is in their own world. But, like, this book is just full of these types of shifts in perspective to get these people over any sort of hump or to keep them going. So I thought that's why your book was fascinating.
Yeah, man. And it's super simple, and we live in an age now where not many people do want to read, even, it's unfortunate, but people don't even read captions now on posts. So it's like, I really did weigh the pros and cons up, and that's why the book is incredibly simple. It's black and white. It's very neutral. There's no pictures or anything. It's just full of quotes, and you can choose to read through it all in one sitting. You can choose to pick random pages at random times, or you can choose to do one page a day. There's some pages where you can write in it, and it's just different. Like, it's just small nuggets of wisdom, right? And the reason I did it that way is because as the volumes go along, the books will get thicker. There'll be a lot more writing. There'll be a little bit more, mindset stuff, more stuff on perspective. It'll be more structured better, because the reality is, like, yes, you can label me an author, but I'm not a professional writer. And,
Right.
This is my first book. And as time goes on, I'll get better, and the volumes will get better, and my writing will get better. And I'm in no rush. I'm pleased with the way this one came out. And each one will get better, and I'm content with that. I'm at peace with that.
As you should be. I mean, you put it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't remember the exact quote, but I saw a quote from Plato on Instagram, like, never look down at people that are making progress, however slow it is. Obviously, you made a tremendous amount of progress putting an actual book out there, but it just came to mind because, you're talking about becoming a better writer over time, and whatever people are working towards, as long as you're a little further along than you were the day before, and you plan to be further along tomorrow as well, then really no sense in beating yourself up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it didn't, honestly, man, this book went through so many renditions and versions that, in my head, I was like, it's never going to be perfect, but it's perfect as it is right now. And it's just, the time is right.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and just pulling from your book, we talked about it earlier, like being a victim or a victor. One of the things is that you wrote is like, if I break a pencil of yours, you have two choices that you can make in that situation. One, you're really upset, you're pissed off because you have a broken pencil, you can't write with it, you end up throwing it out, or you look at it, you're like, it's broken. There's two ends. I can sharpen both of those ends. And now I have two pencils. And that shift in perspective of like,
Yep.
you know, relative to life's tests, that's just one example of being a victim or a victor.
Yeah, that's it's so funny because that's one of the first pages, and that was one of the last pages I wrote because what happened was I finished the book and I got one printed, and when I got it, something was just off, and I was like, you know what, I want to add 10 more pages. So I added 10 more pages, and with that one, that was the last page I wrote, but I put it at the start of the book
Wow.
because I just wanted to set the tone of the book with something like that.
There it is.
Powerful.
Yeah. Because I mean, just what on you said it like 2 minutes ago around like, I'm happy with where I am with the book today. And just again, quoting your book, it's, you said something along the lines of where you are right now in life is exactly where you once wished you were.
Yes.
So I think that's fascinating. I actually love that one because just because you wish that you were here, it doesn't mean that you're stuck here. And it's not about like being permanent. It's about, you know, right now you're doing exactly what you want to be doing, right?
Yeah.
Or if not, then now you have to have that question or that conversation with yourself because now like your values might be misaligned, your desires might be misaligned, and maybe your view of existence is misaligned. So unless you absolutely have a positive answer to that question of, am I doing what I wish I was doing today? Then you need to have that conversation with yourself, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. And that's essentially like there's another quote in the book that is essentially the same thing but different wording, and it's you can be proud of how far you've come but ambitious to where you still got to go. All right, even though you might not be happy where you are right now, you can still be proud because you one long time ago you wished you wish to be where you are right now, right? And we envision our future, and we click our fingers, and lo and behold, we're in the future of of the past.
Right.
Today,
Yeah.
today is yesterday's tomorrow, right? So
Yeah. And I think it is important to have gratitude for the things that are going well. You know, you don't want to go through your whole life looking too narrowly at the future because there is value to be found in the present. And I saw on Instagram that you're a practitioner of meditation. I think meditation can be a powerful way of tapping into that gratitude.
yeah, 1,000,000%. And you know what? I've been meditating for many years, but 2020, I let it slip, and I literally. It's funny enough, like I started again it's been about 4 or 5 days. I started up again, and it just I was just laughing yet last night, and I was like, how did I why did I stop?
Yeah.
And I was it's just everything starts to get aligned, right? When you can just sit, be present, think, and let your mind wander and wonder where it's supposed to be, because we think meditation is like stillness and quietness and just blank slate when it's not. Let your mind wander, see where it goes. You find yourself that way.
Why do you think you stopped last year?
Honestly, I mean, we all had our own version of 2020, and
Right.
I think 2020, a lot of people say that, it was the worst year of their life and so on and so forth, but you can't make that judgment, right? Like, it was just a year. But I feel because of COVID, and closing the gym and not having my daily routine, it's almost like you have an umbrella and it's got those metal strands that holds it together. And when one of those breaks, the umbrella just frails.
Yeah.
It was like 2020 for me was like an umbrella with none of those. I was just very like out there. Like, my workouts were very random. They weren't structured. I was still working out, but I wasn't happy with them. I didn't know what next week was going to bring or the next month was going to bring. And there's power in that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Right.
But as a result of it, I stopped doing certain things. I started doing certain things. And I can definitely say that, where I am right now is a good combination of adapting to what's new in this new normal and still finding my old ways and kind of merging them together.
Love that. And hopefully soon, I was reading about it, like Canada still has most of the gyms closed, especially in Toronto. And hopefully that can be, resolve pretty soon with the vaccine. And,
Yeah.
I know you probably had to make some adjustments in terms of taking your client workouts online. I mean, how's that worked for you?
Yeah, I like to think I'm good at what I do, and if this is a whole new world of like taking clients online and going down a route that I'm not used to, then I'm all for it, and I'll be a student of going down this new route of I may not want to do online training, but if my clients want to do it, and who am I not to? And who am I to be like, no, I don't want to do it?
Right.
It's you sink or you swim, right? It's your choice. So I have to adapt to what the people want. And if people are somewhat fearful of leaving the house or going to the gym or skeptical about what's going on and they want to do it online, then hey man, I'll tap into that world and I'll be the best online trainer I can be.
I was going to say that answer reminds me of something else from your book, which is the caterpillar state of mind. Do you mind describing that for us?
Oh, 100%. So, we all know what a caterpillar is, and how it cocoons and it evolves into a butterfly, right?
Right.
And over the years, especially the rise of social media, caterpillars are now a metaphor for going through hardships and evolving into a better person. Now, caterpillars evolve, they turn into a butterfly, and the butterfly flies away and it lives a beautiful life, right?
Yeah.
But we have gotten that metaphor and that example, and we now think that when we evolve through hardships and we're this pretty butterfly, that our life is going to be great. But it's not the case, because hardships, when you have evolved and you think life is all dandy and fun and great, and you're living your best life, you don't know what's coming next week, the month after,
Right.
2 years from now. And the chances are, actually not the chances are, things will things will go wrong.
Right.
All right. Caterpillar state of mind is basically pre-programming you and neurologically wiring you to be like, okay, it's okay that things are going wrong. I'll just evolve again.
Mm.
Caterpillars evolve to butterflies once. Caterpillar state of mind is about knowing that you can constantly evolve. You can evolve after you've evolved, because after your hardship is going to be another hardship and another hardship and another obstacle, right? And
Right.
chances are some of them will be easier than the ones you've dealt with, and you'll be able to breeze past them. Some of them will be new obstacles you've never faced, and you'll gain new skills and insight. That is all still evolving. So that's what caterpillar state of mind is. It's a mindset and it's a reminder that you can keep evolving.
Mm-hmm. And are there other gym owners in your orbit that you trade ideas with that have that caterpillar state of mind as well?
Not that I know of. It's just
Oh, wow.
no. I mean, I don't really do things like most gym owners. The reason being is because a lot of people, when they tend to change with titles, and then trainers go from trainers to owners, and then they think that, and this is no disrespect to anybody. This is just a personal opinion
Sure.
from a personal observation, that titles do change people, and as a result, their demeanor changes, their expectation changes, so on and so forth. So, how do I build on that? I'm just going to say no.
Yep.
Another interview, I was asked, what separates you from other trainers? And my answer was mainly because I'm not interested or focused on what other trainers are doing. I'm focused on what I need to do and my clients that are, paying for my services. So instead of getting indulged in the community, in the industry, I'm tunnel vision on the service I need to provide, right?
Yeah.
And that's what, to answer the question of, is there other gym owners that do that? Not that I know of.
Yeah. It takes a lot of creativity, I'm sure, to kind of be a trailblazer and carve your own path, because you're kind of coming up with these adaptations on your own,
Yeah, it's tough. Trailblazing is sometimes you don't realize you're doing it. You're just going down going on the beaten path, not knowing where it's going to lead you, and not knowing that people are actually behind you and following
Yeah.
suit. So and to build on that, like I remember like 8-9 years ago, when I was recording in the gym, I was getting laughed at. Like I would set up a tripod with this little handheld Canon like camera, and it was so old, like it ran on like AA batteries. There was no lithium batteries, like I couldn't afford it. And I remember like people would laugh at me. And what's funny is I actually don't know what they were laughing at. And I still don't, because I genuinely wanted to record my workouts, not to show the public, because who was I showing 9 years ago? The 3 people that followed me on Facebook?
Yeah.
Like, no, I just, something within me was just like, I want to see my form. I want to record my workouts. And the more I recorded, the more I would edit. And the more I would edit, the more ideas I would get. And then Instagram came around, and actually, no, Twitter came around, and I was using that camera to take pictures. So I would take videos and screenshot the pictures on QuickTime and use them on Twitter. And then Instagram came around, and then this is, again, pictures. And then it evolved to 15-second videos, and then spiraled.
Wow.
There,
That's
right?
cool. That's really cool.
Now, but the thing is talking about trailblazing, tell me a trainer now that doesn't have a camera. Tell me
Exactly,
a
yeah.
or a gym owner or anybody in the fitness industry that doesn't have a tripod. And it's the norm now. You go to any gym, pre-COVID, you go to any gym, you're guaranteed to see people setting up cameras, photo shoots, pictures. It's a must now. I am not saying I started that. I'm just saying I had the courage to follow what my heart desired at a time that I was being laughed at. That is now happens to be the norm. So
Definitely.
And you were putting in work for yourself, right? And whatever success that led to. And that's the other thing. It's like the only place where success comes before work is the dictionary.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I didn't even do it for success. I was just literally doing it because I was following my intuition, and it's something I just genuinely wanted to do.
Yeah. It's critical to be able to ignore laughter or criticism, when you're embarking on something new. I think that's a big part of the warrior archetype and the warrior mentality as well.
100% agreed. 100% agreed. In any field and in any industry.
Mm-hmm.
First they laughed and they copy, and then they ask for advice.
Yeah, exactly.
Formula.
Yeah.
Formula.
So no, you're an interesting person, and so if an orange is squeezed, you usually get orange juice. If a lemon is squeezed, you get lemon juice. What happens when the world is squeezing you, Charan? What comes out?
Wisdom. That's it. Like, if no matter how much the world squeezes or how little, I'll get a lesson from it, whether it's for myself or whether it's to tell somebody else. That's something I've come to realize, that like I do. A lot of people say, oh, you're a good trainer, or you're a good videographer, or you're a great athlete, or you're creative. I don't see myself as being any of those. Those are just byproducts of me having the willingness to learn. Right? So whether it's hard times, good times, whether it's a book, TV show, whether it's podcast or a song, I tend to try to, try to get something from it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
We've talked about it a fair amount, 2020, a fair amount already, but was there kind of one key piece of wisdom you took from that, or one mantra that got you through the year?
Yes. And it's don't make permanent decisions based on temporary emotions.
Got it. Yeah.
Because I do feel like that kind of held me strong. That was the glue for my year. Because the emotions were all over the place. One week you're upset, one week you feel like your mental health is going down, one week you're up and you're excited, and it's a roller coaster of emotions. But it's like, okay, I'm making permanent decisions based on these emotions. Like, does it align?
Right.
So that was the glue for me.
Interesting, because there's like a balance there, a balancing of a good day versus a bad day, and then also balancing, like, I think, self-talk that people have with themselves. Like, it's okay to have a bad day.
Oh yeah.
And just be like, all right, that was a bad day, I'm gonna grow from it. But then also just be mad that you had a bad day too. Like, you can go both ways and balance that.
100%, man. And like, our heart beats like this, right? Up, down, up, down. If it was straight, we'd be dead.
Yeah.
That's life. Up, down, up, down. But on the machine, it's forward. It's consistent. It doesn't do this. If you notice the machine, it doesn't do this. It does this. Forward.
Moving forward.
Good days, bad days, as long as you're moving forward.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
otherwise, your life will be this. It'll just be a series and a series of good and bad days,
Right.
as
Right.
opposed to good and bad moments and days. But you're still living and moving forward, right?
Right. Absolutely. Well, I know Arjun alluded to your childhood a little earlier on in the episode.
Yeah.
Did you always have the warrior mentality, or was there kind of a critical point in your life where it came to you?
I think, um, I think we all have it. Being human, we all have that primal instinct. We all have that animal instinct. So I do feel we do have, every single one of us has the warrior instinct. I just think that as society has evolved and as time has passed, there's been less need for it. So we thought. And in terms of my childhood, I feel like I always knew, I don't know, how do I say this? I always knew that like something was different about me, but I'm not different. That's the thing. I don't know how I want to express this. I knew something was different about me, but I knew I'm just like everybody else because I don't know. I can't explain it. I just knew that something was wired different with me. I just felt like I was born in the wrong century.
Oh, interesting.
I just feel like I should have been born like 100 years ago. Just because of things I liked, and like I wasn't a loner. I had a good, solid group of friends. I had many different circles, but maybe that's what it was. Like in every different circle I was in, I was not the outsider, but I was like just different. I was just a different one in every circle I was in. And I was okay with that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not using it as an excuse for certain things, but I was totally okay with that. Spent a lot of time in the gym when I got to my university days. And yeah, from there, like history, starting to do a lot of studying on geography, history. Then my love for like learning about warriorism or warriors and ancient history warriors came from actually Assassin's Creed. Like I was a huge Assassin's Creed guy.
Nice.
And then I fell in love with like learning about the Italian Renaissance and the French Renaissance. And then from there, man, I just went balls deep into like samurais and Vikings and Spartans. And yeah.
So cool. If you had to be transported back in time, either be a Spartan, a Sikh, a samurai, a Viking, which one would it be?
Oh, man, I have this debate every day. It all comes with my moods because I'll tell you why. Samurais were very peaceful, very philosophical. They were cultivators that were very community driven, as were most samurais. Very articulate, very calculated, and I love that. But there's something about the Viking and Norse culture that like calls to me, and it's primarily just like people don't realize it. They were farmers, man. Like Vikings were just farmers, and they were just going around trying to find better lands to farm. That's literally like where they started to explore. But they had a certain engineering mentality. The way they engineered the longboats, the way they invented so like the axes, double-edged axes, they created a lot of things that people don't realize. You know, the way they created their settlements, they were smart. They lived off the land like no other warriors, man. The way they would hunt, the way they would know about the trees and the fruits and the food. And there's a certain part of like Viking and Norse mythology that people don't know about unless you actually do the research. And they were smarter than modern day culture makes them out to be.
Huh. I did not know that. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Now the Spartans, on the other hand, they were very structured. They had a society about them. They had a chain of command about them. Right? They were very like they had a lot of knowledge. They had a lot of education. They had schools because they would obviously teach their kids, and they had an art to their fighting and team. They were very team based. That's why they have the the shield wall and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, right.
Like a Viking in the battlefield, they didn't have tactics and stuff, but the Spartans did. Whereas a samurai would be totally okay by himself. Like there's
yeah, that's a lot of differences. Yeah,
there's so much to it. Like so if you want to ask me like which one I would be, depends on the day, depends on the mood, depends on the environment.
Yeah, depends on what's required for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I think we can put
I
up.
lean towards the samurai. The samurais call me more than anything. Primarily because of their mindfulness and their will to develop the mind.
Yeah, there's a nice balance there.
Yeah. Well, the way you describe it. So originally, when I was thinking about the warrior archetype, I was thinking about mindfulness, and I was thinking about like how fragile life is like something that gives a warrior clarity. But the way you just described it, it's like I don't know if all warriors are mindful. Like, do you think the Vikings were mindful?
No,
Right? Yeah.
no, because they had a brute, like they were very smart, but they weren't into the Zen. The Zen Taoism like that the samurai were into. They had code. Like samurais had code. Like they wouldn't kill an unarmed person. They wouldn't kill you from behind. And if they dishonored their master, they would take their life or their finger, the little finger. So they had honor about them, right? They had a code. They had rules. Whereas the Vikings, like they would they had
Burn your village down kind of thing.
Yeah, like there's a brutish nature about them that is not to be messed with.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they were able to go into berserker mode, right? That's part of how they kind of
And then also the females in their culture, they had shield maidens. They were warriors too. Whereas
wow.
in my culture, it's not like that. They were taught to raise the kids and to cultivate and to farm, and you know what I mean. So
yeah,
there's a lot to it.
Yeah, and that shows right there how you can have both sides of the warrior archetype, and that's what we're trying to get to here.
Yeah, man. So you just got to find, in terms of like all this stuff, this is just my personal interest and what I like to do and the research I do on history. But it's like when you do that history, you can kind of pick and choose like what resonates with you as a human being you are in today's society, and the warrior you kind of want to mold yourself to be, right?
Yeah, totally.
And that will dictate whether you are, like, let's just say you have a love for Vikings, you're not going to implement the code and the morals and the honor that the samurais have. But if you're resonating towards that, you're gonna have that code in everyday life. You're not going to be like, hence why when that bully was doing something, like was being a bully, and I stepped in, the samurai and me being like, okay, I can't let this happen.
Whereas a Viking would have just gone ham on the
gone on and just grabbed him and just pulled him on the ground and be like, called cops.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So there's different aspects that you can pick and choose and take and implement into your everyday life, right?
Yeah. That's why it takes a lifetime to master these things. And so I think, we're all working towards that. And so I think we can put a bow on the episode by sharing your 4 pillars that you started the book with. And it can encapsulate a lot of what we've been talking about. Yeah.
So the 4 pillars is inspire others to inspire others. Meaning, I'll go into detail of all of them too. Inspire others to inspire others. So it's very easy for me to say inspire you. But I want you to take what I've taught you and tell that to somebody else. Like inspiration shouldn't be limited to the person you are talking to. All right. So when you try and motivate somebody, make sure you leave them with something that they can pass on. Right. So that's crucial. Right. The next one is learn something new every day. Try to anyway. Try, like the try is crucial. You're making a conscious effort to try to learn, whether you do or not. Right. The effort is what counts. And that could be in the form of, like I said, a conversation. It could be a word. I play Scrabble on my phone, right? And every day it sends me a notification, word of the day. And I'm telling you, man, like 5 days out of 7, it gives me a word that I've never known. So I'm unconsciously and indirectly learning something new every day just from that. So there's a lot of people out there that will say, how can I learn something new? They think they've neurologically been wired that learning is studying, but it's 2 different things. You can learn anything, from anything, you know what I mean? So you also set yourself up. Like I don't have that app just to play Scrabble. I have that app because for the words, you know what I mean? So I've set myself up that even when I'm not in the mood to play it, there may be a day I do not play it. There may be 4 days I don't play it, but I've set myself up with that notifications comes no matter what. And I could just glance at it and just look away and get back to it later and be like, all right, what did that word mean?
Mm.
You know, so learning something new can be in the form of many different things. It just takes effort, just like everything else in life, just takes effort. All right. So inspire others to inspire others, learn something new every day. The third one is use your hardships to propel you to your purpose, or use your struggle to reveal your purpose. Right. And what I mean by that is, like, don't deny yourself of the growth that comes from the hard times you're going through. Okay. Just like in my race, I can either walk to the finish line and quit, or I could run to the finish line and finish. Right.
Right.
I'm going in the same direction. So when you're going through hard times, you are going to go in that direction no matter what. But if you deny yourself of the key quality lessons out in that hardship, right, you're actually acquiring a skill that will help you in the future. For example, I go through something today. If I go through the same thing again in 2 weeks' time, I'm equipped to go through it because I knew how to handle myself today. Right. So allow it to reveal your purpose. Allow it, like, take something from the hardship. Okay. And the fourth one, if memory serves me correctly, is unconditionally help other people. All right. And what I mean by that is sometimes karma has become this kind of like society, like it's like the in thing, right? Like, do a good deed, I'll come back to you.
Right.
No,
Right.
like that takes away from it being a good deed. Don't do
Yeah.
things for a result. Don't do things for a reward. You won't get it. Do things because they need to be done. Help somebody because like don't film yourself giving a homeless person $5.
Yeah.
Like it takes away from it. Like, you and I mean no disrespect when I say the next thing is you see a lot of charities, you see a lot of people, filming themselves going on food drives and giving things out and stuff. And you know what? That's great. I get that we live in an age where you need to document everything. And how else are other people going to know what your organization does?
Right.
But part of me is like, imagine being homeless, like, and you're sitting there and somebody, like, all these people walk by you, but then all of a sudden a group of people come to give you something, but there's cameras in your face.
Right.
They are literally profiting and not profiting. I'll take that word back. I apologize. They are literally capitalizing on this person's like circumstance. Like my organization will thrive. My good deeds will thrive because you're on the floor sitting on a piece of cardboard. I don't think that's right. That's just my 2 cents. And this is my
I'm with you.
opinion.
Yeah.
I just think that, and don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people who are doing a lot of good deeds that nobody knows of. But that is the
Exactly.
beauty of it. That is the beauty of it, man. So, how now you'll probably get a lot of people say, how can I help somebody not get anything in return? Right? Like, there's many ways. You can go in a drive-through and be like, hey, can I pay for the person's stuff behind me? Just do it. They're not gonna know about it. You're gonna get nothing from it. But like I said, I've said this many times, but I've just lost my train of thought. You're not rich or you're not wealthy. No, that's not the quote. It's the quote. You guys have probably heard it too. It's a quote where it's like, when you can't get something from somebody, you're not rich until you can't pay back somebody for their good deed or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I think I have
But
heard
also-
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Also, just raise your standard of giving instead of your standard of living.
there you go.
So I mean, just giving back. I mean, you can feel pure joy in yourself when you see joy in others, even if you just wave at the person in line or say something to like on the way to the dog park. I usually say hello to the 3 homeless people that I'm walking by simply because that could make or break their day. It's something so small but so big to them. And what did I get out of it? Nothing. I got to like use my voice today.
There you go. That's it. Like, just, and it just like help people and be nice because you want to, man, and because it needs to be done. All right.
Yeah.
That's more than enough of a reason, right? I think that's crucial. Yeah,
This
those
has
are
been. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
no problem.
Oh, I was going to say, no, it's been a great conversation. We're going to include the links to, find your book in our show notes and how to follow you. And we simply want to say thank you for your time, your presence, your energy, your inspiration, and your perspective here. I mean, there's no doubt that whoever's listening to it, there's going to be someone who's been impacted by this. And, you know, all of us can implement something from today's episode and start to live better lives and help everyone else.
100%. Like I said, man, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
It's been an honor and appreciate it.